to start the show. The Good Life with DT and Spicoli. Welcome to the Good Life.
You are now listening to the Good Life Podcast.
Good Life. Good Life. These boys are crazy.
You are now listening to the Good Life Podcast.
Here we are wrapping up the 2023 season of the Good Life Podcast. Spicoli, DT, so good. So glad that you're a part of it. It's been a wild year. Man, I feel like we've done a lot of podcasts with a lot of really cool people.
Dude, I'm shocked at like going back and making all the recaps and just being like, dude, how the hell did we get these people? I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of secrets. There's a lot of method to the madness to try to get them on the show and then figure out a time and then go back and forth. And I mean, it's a process, but once you get it knocked out and they're on the show, I feel like everybody's had like a really good time.
Yeah, man. Especially, I mean, shit, dude. We had people, I mean, people don't even know about this, but we've had people just not show up to their podcast. So there's been people that we've booked and they just didn't show up to do it. So, I mean, for the people that did show up, I mean, we had a good turnout for sure.
Yeah, which was your favorite?
Oh man, dude, I don't know, man. If just off the top, just like read names, probably story of the year. But after the experience that we had with Swayco at the Swayco concert, dude, that one was pretty special, dude.
Yeah, Swayco was really cool. Here's a guy that has like just millions of followers on TikTok, and you would think that he would have like a big inflated ego, but no, not at all. He was so down to earth, and he was excited to talk about music, and he was kind of excited that like we knew more about him than just being on TikTok. Like we'd really done our research, and I think that's something that is cool about us in this podcast is that we really thrive on like knowing about the artists before we bring them on. And what also excites me about this podcast is that they I don't know, I feel like we learn a lot more having them on, obviously, but just I feel like it's a respect thing. Like they're learning about us, we're learning about them. They like what we're doing, and you go back and listen to the podcast, and they're like, "Oh man, that's a really good question. Like, I never heard of that one before."
I mean, we kicked it off with Adrian Patrick, right?
Yep.
And Adrian,
he was
Patrick
brought to tears.
Was amazing, dude. I mean, he just unloaded about the industry, and he was really the one that kicked it off about record labels. And then after that, it was just a domino effect. I think if other artists had heard it and they were like, fuck it, we can say whatever we want now. And they were just going at it, dude. And it was so cool. But yeah, Adrian Patrick was, I think, probably the best way we could have started it off. That was a great call by you.
Yeah, Adrian Patrick of Otherwise, that dude is, I mean, that band is so talented, most underrated band that I think I've ever discovered. Like those guys are just so underrated. Like when you see them at their live show, it's, I mean, balls to the wall. They hit the gas, and their songs are so good, so catchy. And if you haven't given them a listen to yet, go back and listen to the podcast, and you can feel the passion with Adrian.
Yeah, man. I mean, good Lord. I mean, pretty much everybody that we've had on that's come through Omaha too has been like, hey, we want you guys on the show. You know, me and you go out and we'll show out, man, and be out there supporting it. So, I mean, yeah, thanks to everyone, all the artists who put us on the shows to come out too, man. That was great. And I guess a little sneak peek into 24. If you're going to Stir Concert Cove, you might see something out there representing the good life all season long. So that's kind of a big plan for us, I think, man, is that we want to be, 23 was definitely, let's figure this thing out. Let's figure out how we get guests on. I think we've got that formula down. The formula usually goes, Spicoli says, hey, go get this guy. And I go ahead.
Yeah. There's usually I mean, DT and we always go back and forth on text messages all day. Like this band would be really cool. Let's shoot for the stars. Yeah. And I think that's what we got to do. Like this is, we've been in the industry a long time. Like you as an artist, you as like a guy that you know a lot of people, and me in radio, I think we know a lot of people, and we always show respect to the artists that we have on, and to get them on the podcast and to kind of get them to open up and get to humanize them a little bit and realize, man, they're it takes a lot to be in a band,
It
doesn't
does,
it?
dude. Oh my
A
goodness.
lot of sacrifices.
Yeah, man. Adrian again touched on that a lot, man. A lot of these bands do. I mean, Story of the Year came on and told us they were practically living on food stamps for a bit. I mean, I mean, yeah, it's one of those things where it's like you got to go balls to the wall and you got to be all in. And I guess I kind of took a lot of what they said for the podcast too. And I mean, really, dude. I mean, we grew this thing pretty. I think it grew pretty big in 6 months, man. I mean, um, when we booked Story of the Year, I think I made a post about this on Facebook. But their manager, the first thing they said was, "How's your social media engagement?" And I was like, "Here's our Facebook link. You can go look." And they went and looked, and then they immediately messaged back and said, "When do you want to do it?" And I was like, "That's so badass, man!" Because like everybody's like, "What's it's supporting it so hard?" So it's very cool.
Yeah, to see the engagement and to see, our page grow and to see the following continue to get bigger. I mean, this is just, we're just warming up. So if you guys have been with us since the beginning, I mean, here we go in 2024, hitting the gas, and always let us know. You can always go to our Facebook page, direct message us, and let us know who you want on the podcast. And, we'll try our best. If we're vibing with them, or if you really think that this band needs to be heard, then let us know. Who do you want?
Yeah, for sure. Especially people coming up. We got no problem with that either. I mean, we'll check them out, obviously, and we're not snobby about it. But I mean, if we think that, hey, these guys are pretty good, we'll bring them on. We got no problem with that at all. So,
Yeah, that's one thing about us. Like, you're gonna discover new music on this podcast. It's like a new music discovery. I love it. Like, so many bands that we've had on that, Elijah being one of them out of Nashville. Like, I had never heard of him, and to see him get played on Octane now and continue to grow, and wow,
yeah.
and you even had him on your top 23 list, and man, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, man, he released, I mean, for what he's doing, I mean, he's a lot like 0936, right? Where he's doing everything
Yeah,
himself. Um, but I mean, he's collabing with Matty Mullins from Memphis May Fire. And I mean, it's cool though, because when we talk to him, you can tell that he's just a young dude. Do you know what I mean? Like some of
right.
these guys come on that have been in the industry for so long, and it's just, the way that they talk compared to a brand new artist it's pretty cool to see, man.
Yeah, they haven't been coached yet.
Yeah, yeah, he hasn't seen the record label side yet, you know what I mean? So,
Right.
and then you got people like Vex that came on. Jesus, that Vex just let it go.
Yeah, the one
Big
thing
shout
about
out to that
Vex,
dude,
he'll just
honestly
let it
though.
rip, man. He will
Yeah,
let it
and I,
rip.
and I sincerely meant that. Somebody made a comment on the recap we made of Vex, and they were like, "He's such a cool dude." If it wasn't for Vex, man, I think Vex coming on definitely was a huge stepping stone for us. He definitely gave us a shot, and he laid his heart out on the podcast, man. He didn't hold anything back, so it was super cool.
Yeah, I love when these artists open up and they just really can be themselves. And I think that's also like a testament to us where, like, when you come on the podcast, you are free to be yourself. You don't need to put on a front. You don't need to act a certain type of way. Just be who you are, an authentic person, just who you are and why we love you, and let it rip.
I guess I got a question for you. A two-part question. One, I already know the answer, how cool it is, but people I saw commenting on the recaps too about you, and they're like, you can't take the rock out of Spicoli. And I know that was a big reason you started doing this again, because you love the radio station you're on. You love your job, but at the same time, you're like, you're a rocker at heart, man. So I think you getting to come back and talk to these people, and I know that some of them, they still knew who you were. Vex definitely knew who you were. He was asking you stuff about the radio. He's like, "What are you doing now?" And this, and I was just sitting back going, like, "Dude, how fucking cool is that, man?" Like all these like Shim, and I mean, I can Adam Ramey from Dropout Kings, Adrian Patrick, they all like still are like just talking to you like they talked to you yesterday, dude. Is that like super cool to you
Yeah.
still?
Yeah, that is super cool, man, and that means a lot. That means like that the time that we had them on at the radio station, it was something special for them. It was something special for me, and I always make sure that bands feel welcome. I make sure that I put in the effort to ask them really good questions and get the most out of them while they're on the radio or while they're on the podcast. And I just want everybody to have a good time. And there's nothing like music that can unite people, man. I love music so much, and I love rock music. It's in my bones. And, if the artist is giving us their time, I want to make the most out of the 20-25 minutes that we get with them. And I want the listeners to have a good time and walk away like, wow, I learned something really cool.
Yeah, for sure, man. It's it's definitely humbling. I'll say that. Like I said, I've been, Good Life is doing very well as a podcast, and I've had other podcasts reach out, and I didn't really have anything to base off what we're doing. I was just, well, our numbers look cool. I think that's good. And then, I help other people out, and I'm like, oh my goodness, dude, like the Good Life is doing really well, man. Like it's very cool to see. And I think towards the end of November, I was starting to get a little demotivated almost, where I was just like, man, like it's getting hard. I don't really know if the effort that I'm putting in is really getting what me and Spicoli wanted. And then when I started seeing, like, comparing to other things, I was just like, okay, dude, like we're gonna keep going as hard as we can now.
Yeah, yeah, I love that attitude. You just got to stick it out, and that's what everybody tells you. It takes some time. Like I always wish there was like a magic pill where you could just pop it in and be like, oh, instant success. But it just doesn't work like that. I've learned that over time you got to build your following, and you got to stay consistent, and you got to put out really great content. And I think we're doing that. We're staying consistent. We're putting out great content. We're getting out and speaking with really cool artists that we're very passionate about. We're also learning about new artists. Like I love how listener Jason sent us artist info on Sixth Century,
Yes, dude.
and to get them on, they were so cool, man. They were so cool.
No, yeah, dude. They still hit us up. I mean, they're still emailing us. Hey, we got the album coming out. Is it cool if we come back on? Like, of course, dude. Yeah, you're coming back on. I mean, the Impulsive, dude. I mean, I slept on them. Well, what you listen to this tonight, just Impulsive podcast is coming out Wednesday of this week, so we're gonna talk about that too. But yeah, I mean, you gave me tons of shit about that. I was everybody, Kenny cheers, everybody, you gotta check out the Impulsive, and I'm like, I'm not getting into a local band. And then as soon as I did, I was like, oh, dude, they are very good. So
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
dude.
there's
And Shane was sending us some stuff, and we're like, oh snap, dude.
dude, I was jamming to that
2024 is
this
going to be a
morning.
big year for the Impulsive too. Like just hitting that. I've known Shane in the band. He's a singer. I've known him for a long time, and I used to have him like just do parodies for my radio show. I would write some stuff up, and he would sing it. And he was a good singer then. So he's come a long way since 2013. Here we are at the end of 2023. I've known him for about 10 years, and the way his voice continues to get better, richer, fuller, stronger. I love that about him, and to see how far he's come since radio, and then being in a band and getting better. I love it so much, and I'm rooting for these, genuinely rooting for
Oh
these
yeah,
guys.
same, dude. I mean, and this is gonna be a huge compliment to him, dude, because I know he's a huge Benjamin Burnley fan. I know it. That what he sent us, dude. I played it through my studio speakers upstairs, and I told Megan, I was like, dude, this has a Breaking Benjamin vibe to it. And like this is what he's going for, and
Yeah,
it's amazing. He's doing very well,
yeah, and his voice mixed with the screaming from Jake.
dude. Yeah, I can't wait for people to hear that shit. This is one of those things that you hate doing, man. I know you hate doing it, where you're like off air, but fuck, man, we got we got a little sneak peek of something, and oh man, yeah, they're bringing it in 24.
Yeah, I mean, it's not up to us to like just give you that music, because they sent it to us in confidence,
Yeah,
and we would never just oh, here you go. Like we would do it with their full permission. And I think when they're on the podcast, they'll let us play like maybe a little tidbit of it,
yeah,
a little
maybe that'll
sneak
be
peek.
the little intro. Maybe we'll get a little sneak peek. We'll see. I don't know. He said that one wasn't all the way mixed though, dude. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, so I mean, it's totally up to them, and we want them to. We always want to stay on good terms with all these bands that are coming on, and if they give us permission to play it, then we will burn it in your ear holes and let you
dude, all
decide for
day,
yourself. Is this a banger, or is this whack? But can confirm this is fire. What they're
dude.
what they're putting out. Oh my goodness, 24 is going to be a big year for the Impulsive.
Yeah, there's nothing. The word local is no longer associated with the Impulsive with me. Just being straight up, man. That's yeah. I am blown away by those, especially when we saw him live at the Citizens Havoc with Arson
Yeah.
and Through Fire. This is the first time I saw him live, and I was just like, dude, they got it. Okay, this band has it. So
Yeah, they really set the standard, and they set the standard. Other bands were watching, and they were like, all right, we see you, we hear you, we see what you're doing." And uh, yeah, it's gonna be it's gonna be special once they release this. It's gonna be great.
I got a question, and I guess this is something that our followers and listeners don't even know. How I think we both went into this thing expecting everything you did to make this quite a bit easier to get guests and stuff. How challenging do you think it's been, man? Since I mean, I think we both had that thought when you came on that it was just going to be like, we're going to get anybody we want. And it hasn't been that way, man. It's been a lot of grinding between both of us to get these people on.
Yeah, it has been a grind. It's been tricky. Like, you think because of my experience of 20 years in radio and working with a lot of these bands that I could just snap my fingers and they'll be on the podcast. But and I'm sure a lot of them would be, but you have to go through the proper channels. You have to go through, they have agents, and do they have time? Do they want to talk? Do they have 45 minutes to spare? Do they have 30? Do they want to save their voice? I mean, there's a lot of things that go into play here, and it's a little bit complicated. So I am grateful for the bands that have said yes and that have
Yeah, a lot of
come on the
people,
show.
they ask, they're like, so do you just message an artist on Instagram and be like, yo, I got a podcast with Spicoli, and they come on? I'm like, no, dude. Like, me and Spicoli had to figure out the formula to get everybody on. I was like, it's been tons of trial and error. And they're like, how do you do it? And I'm like, no. that's
Yeah.
that's where the work part is, man. Like, that's the
Yep.
toughest trick, man. And it's, you figure out how to talk to these people, and it's more about what are you going to do for them, and that's kind of the big trick. But that's the biggest tip I'll give people, I guess, that are trying to start this, man, is figure
Yeah.
out
If
how
you're
you're
trying to
helping them. It's not about you.
always about how you can help them, and really for us it's about getting the music out there. Like, both, if you've listened to the podcast, DT and I are very passionate about these artists that we bring on, or we want to learn more about them, and it's like a new music discovery thing. So we're very passionate about it, and we're not going to waste their time. That's one big thing for us. Like, we never want to waste any artist's time, and we want to make sure that they're getting the most out of it. And if you come on this podcast, most people who listen are going to check out your music. Um, so
Yeah,
I
and
think
big
it really
big
just comes
props to
down to
you
that.
on that too, straight up, because there's a lot of things. I mean, dude, you've coached me pretty much every week we've done the podcast. Like, but you try this out, and then I'll try it out and be like, oh yeah, that worked. And you're like, sweet. So obviously you're on the radio from four in the. I mean, you're rocking from like 4 in the morning practically till 1 in the afternoon. So it's more of you just here and there, just saying, try this, see if this works, and it's just figuring it out, man. So, but we got some feelers out for some pretty badass people for 24, man. Some of them that are like your favorite artists. Uh,
Yeah.
that's like my big goal is like, all right, I got to reward Spicoli for everything, man. So hopefully I can land. I think it's probably 3 or 4 of them I got out there right now that I'm in talks with. So if we land them, oh boy.
Yeah, it's gonna be sweet, man. And I know there's a lot of artists that you want to get, and a lot that I want to get, and we just got to keep on just trying our best. And I think that's really what it comes down to, is like putting a lot of effort into this podcast, because I know like the support has been amazing, and so I want to go Kobe mode on this podcast where it's like we're going all out. Like, if you're listening to this, we're so grateful. So we want to continue to make it better each time. Like, each time we have a new artist on, we want to get better than the last time. So that's always our goal, just hitting the gas on this podcast in 2024, and just trying new things, getting different artists on, catching us out a little bit more, seeing us out there a little bit more. So there's a lot of cool things in store.
What do you think our where do you think our point was at, where we were like, all right, it took off further than we thought it was going to be in 23?
Man, I think there was several moments like that I felt it was super cool. Like, getting, obviously, Adrian of Otherwise. I thought that was cool to kick it off,
Yeah,
and then getting Vex, and then Hollywood Undead, and then circling back to my boy Shim, formerly of Sick Puppies. Like, he is always a riot, dude. He's
dude, Shim was supposed
he's
to be
so
one of
much
the
fun.
first guests and ended up being the last guest of 23. That was a hell of a way to end it.
Yeah, yeah. And for him, he like wanted something to be able to promote like his master class in songwriting music, So he just needed something to promote, and he said, actually, that was his motivation to get it out there and produce it and get it done,
He
to
did.
finish that project, to be able to have that, to talk about it on the podcast.
Yeah, dude, that was super cool. He said that multiple times during his podcast. That was, you asked me to come on and I had to have something ready for it. So I did all this. You ready? And we're like, yeah, go. And then we just shut up and let him go, dude. And he just kept going. So, but
For sure.
he's
And
still hitting us up now about possibly some special stuff in the future. So we'll see, man.
yeah, Shim is his mind is always racing. His mind is always racing. He's always working. He's an entertainer, and he wants to do some stuff, and we want to do some stuff, and you never know. You never know what
You
can
never
happen
know
with
with
Shim.
old Shim boy. I for
Yeah.
sure my turning point. it changes with every artist, man. When we got Swaco, I was like, oh, I think that was the first one I got. You gotten a lot, and then I've gotten a lot. I think for Swaco, Vex, I think was my first one. That was a big one. Then Swaco,
Yeah, that was big.
but then when we got Story of the Year, dude, I'll be straight up and I'll admit I was fangirling hard, dude. That's one of my favorite bands ever, dude. So when we got them, I think both of us were like, holy shit, man, that's awesome.
Yeah, that was very surprising. That was a huge get on your part, and I was like, man.
We'll be back after a quick break.
Up in the castle, evil mischief stirs.
Plan number 42. I shall turn myself into a cat and get adopted by the butcher's daughter so I can learn all her secrets. Then, I will use them to make her fall in love with me. What do you think, Wilson?
Hey, check out 1v1 Me DM on all podcast platforms to see more of Dracula's perfect plans at finding true love.
He really is putting in the grind, and that's when I realized, like there was moments like when I realized, okay, he's for real about this. Like one with like Vexed, and then Swaco, we had a couple hiccups with him, and I was I know you're upset with those hiccups, but sometimes hiccups happen,
dude. Good learning experience.
And what I told you is like, remember, these are artists, they have a lot going on, and times are kind of tricky, and sometimes things come up where they can't make it on, and just you have to be patient.
Yeah.
You have to be patient. We'll work it out. We'll figure it out. And I was like, don't ruin any relationship.
Yeah, no, man. I'm glad we finally got him on, dude. That was a really good time. He was a great guest, but I mean, like, yeah, Story of the Year, dude. I mean, you'll have people say stuff to you and be like, yeah, come down to the show. We'll put you on the list, man. We'll give you full access. And you're like, oh, sweet. And you get all excited. And in the back of your head, you're going like, these dudes aren't going to do that. I mean, I drove down to Lawrence, Kansas and hung out with Story of the Year, dude. Like, that was one of the coolest things ever.
I know, and sometimes it's just amazing because, I've been in radio for 20 years, and yes, it is a job, but also it is exciting when you're like, wow, I talked to these people on the radio,
Yeah.
and they're still as cool, like in real life when I meet them backstage or whatever. And doing this podcast, it's the same, like, yes, we have a job to do, and yes, we want to make it right, but also, like, when you go there and you're backstage and you just meet these bands, are just so chill, dude. It's so chill, and they're so grateful, and they're like, DT Spicoli, what's up, dude? Like, I love that moment with Swaco. That was like our first, like, okay, wow, he was very grateful to be on the podcast. And then when we met him in person, like the big old hug, the big grin on his face, he was so excited.
That's what everybody talks about. That was, we gave away all those tickets, and we had a huge group with us. I met Swaco, and Swaco just started hugging both of us. Like, he knew who we were. Like, I think it was his manager saw our hoodies, and he's like, oh, you guys are the Good Life guys. And we're like, yeah. And as soon as Swaco saw us, he started freaking out. And I was like, dude, that's so fucking cool, man.
Yeah, that was a special moment, and that's when I was like, okay, we're making a positive impact. We're making a positive impact with our listeners and a positive impact with the artists that come on, and that's why I do it, man, because I just want to get the music out there, and I know you do too, and the rest is just, the cherry on top.
Do you ever obviously I get way more jazz than you do. So I'm like you 20 years ago, probably when you first started, and you're like, I get to meet these people. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, I'll hit you. I'm like, Spicoli, they want us backstage. And you're like, I got stuff going on. And in my head, I'm going, what are you talking about? And you're probably like, dude, I've been doing this so long. Like, they're just, I know it's super cool to you still, man. But is it weird looking back and seeing how like nuts I get about shit?
Yeah, you are me for sure. 20 years ago, when I first got into it, and I think I remember, like, in 1 week I had 2 huge bands like come in the studio, and one of them was Andrew WK. Remember Party Hard? And he was the stinkiest rock star I'd ever met.
He looks like he would be.
He smelled so bad. And I remember we had to just, we had to clean out the studio. We had to spray it down. He was so stinky. And he said after every show, he freezes his clothes, the white t-shirt and the white jeans. He puts them in like a freezer and then changes his clothes. And then he wears the same outfit at the next show. It was so weird. And then the next big band I had on was Jet. Remember them? Yep. And I was interviewing them, and I remember saying, like, because they were walking in strumming on their guitars, and right as they walked in the studio, I was like, oh, you guys ready to crank one out? And they said, whoa, what kind of radio show is this? And I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, well, where we're from, Australia, to crank one out means to masturbate. And I'm like, oh, yeah, well, welcome to
Oh my
America. Crank one
God.
out. Play a song on your
Do
guitar.
you ever just like look back, man, like who you talk to, and does it ever just like get exciting and like Chester Bennington, like shit like that? Did you ever just think back to it and go, I can't believe I got to do this?
Yeah, for sure. Chester Bennington was one of them. Chester Bennington was, man, he just literally felt like my brother. Like he was so calm and so cool and just so, I mean, just him giving his time and giving his energy, like that to me is still mind blowing. Like Mike Shinoda, Tim from Rise Against the lead singer, like I had those guys on at the same time on the same interview. It was like because they were going on tour together, Rise Against and Lincoln Park, and so was Mike Shinoda and Tim McGrath on the same interview. Like that stuff was just surreal to me because I love those bands so much. And then of course when that and then getting to interview Soundgarden, it was Ben of Soundgarden because Chris Cornell couldn't do it at that time. It was supposed to be Chris, but something came up with Chris, and then it turned into Ben, and it was just surreal because that was so historical. As at that time we were bringing Soundgarden to Rockfest, and I remember not being able to have it because on the day Rockfest was scheduled was Friday, May 12th, and that was the day Beckett was born.
Oh no, that's right.
Yeah, so I wasn't able, and we were joking that Chris Cornell was going to be Dr. Chris Cornell, and he was going to help deliver the baby on stage, and we were going to do that in the name of rock.
Yeah.
We would have the baby on stage, and Dr. Chris Cornell would help deliver it. And Emily, I remember she was listening to the interview, and she's like, no, like that is not happening. I'm not going to give birth to my first child on stage. And then, unfortunately, like 2 days later, Chris Cornell took his own life. What a crazy turn of events. And then a couple months after that, then it was, Chester Bennington. It was just, I feel like, to be a part of these artists' lives, and to play a very small part, and bringing their music out and getting people to know them and getting them backstage to meet the bands. It's been a special run, and I'm just very grateful for all of the opportunities.
Yeah, man, you've had some fucking killer guests. I mean, there's nothing to say about that. I wonder.
Yeah.
I just it's funny though because we always put out there like, who do you guys want to have on, and usually everybody's like, you should get Mark Hoppus on, and I'm just like, go. You know how hard? I don't think people realize how hard it is to get these guys on. Like,
yeah, I've had Mark Hoppus on, and he was awesome, dude.
Oh,
He
I
was,
bet.
as a Blink 182 fan, dude, that was that was my moment when I realized, wow, I've officially made it. Like there was a couple moments when I was like, oh wow, I've officially made it. It was Mark Hoppus of Blink 182. It was Corey Taylor from Slipknot. It was Brent Smith of Shinedown. Like those three, and then also for like the new artists, Caleb from Beartooth. Those were like, oh, okay. So I'm in with the older artists. I'm on the rise with these upcoming artists, and I felt like, okay, this is cool. Like I felt like I had a good thing going.
That's how I was going to end this one. Was talking about our top albums, but about Caleb really quick. Were you an Attack fan at all when he was in that?
No,
You weren't. Did you have you really listened to Attack?
I don't like Attack. I just don't care for it.
So they went through like multiple different lead singers, and Caleb was on the second album, and that's
Okay.
an amazing album. It's very heavy, and yeah, dude, Caleb killed it when he was in Attack.
Okay, yeah, I think I'll have to check that out. I might have heard like the first one, and I was like,
Yeah,
not
so
really
the first
my
one's more
my
like
vibe.
poppy and techno-y and stuff, and then the second one they're like, it's like, check out like A is for Andrew, and you're gonna be
Okay.
like, what, dude? Like it's good.
Okay, I'll check that out.
So Beartooth is your number one album of 23, hands down.
That is my band. Yes.
And I like I told you, I pretty much agree with you, but we couldn't have the same top one. So what's your favorite song off the album?
Oh man, dude, you're gonna make. I would have to say there's so many. It's tough for me to pick, but I really like "Doubt Me."
Yeah.
That song is really good. New Reality, like it's between like "Doubt Me" and New Reality. Those two songs, like I've just back and forth. They just his lyrics. I don't know. They always just cut deep with me.
Yeah, they really figured out how to, Day to Remember really kind of, I would say Day to Remember was a big part of kicking off that kind of genre that they do. And then Beartooth kind of figured out how to make it completely different. And they
Right.
did a very good job of, breaking down like super catchy choruses and, the breakdowns. And then, they did an amazing job on that new album. It's so good.
Yeah, dude, 1010 front to back, can listen to it over and over again and have no problems. Like,
No, yeah.
I mean, I'll go to the gym and I'm like, okay, I gotta separate myself. I'm like, there's a ton of other music that I want to listen to, but I always find myself going back to Beartooth's album.
I listened to it a ton. And then that's when you were like, let's do our top albums. And I was like, dude, I listen to Beartooth a ton. And I was like, who else did I listen to? And then it was Letdown, man. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, man. That dude is he's just super talented, man. I mean,
Yeah.
he's a songwriter, I mean, he's hanging out, he's good friends with Jake Schreier from New Medicine Man. He's hanging out with Aaron Gillespie of Under Oath, all these songwriters together. And people like that, man, like you can just tell in their writing, like he does a very good job of having all these different genres out there. And I think when he was on, he was like, I got this super poppy song coming out, and he dropped it, and I was like, dude, it's just super talented guy, man. So
I mean, he was awesome to have on, and I respect so much like those artists that can really do it all. Like they can sing, they can write, they can play, they can do a lot, and it's just, man, it blows my mind that like they just hear things differently in their head. Like when it comes to singing, they're like, this chorus would hit hard right here. What if I put this guitar riff right here, or this like drum right here? I mean, it's just, to be able to do all of that takes a special kind of person to be able to put that all together. And these artists that we've had on, like, just just blow my mind.
No, dude. Yeah, it's insane. When I was making the recap for 23, like I said, I told you, I was like, dude, it's super humbling, like going through this list right now in 6 months of what we've done. So very excited for 24. We're recording more podcasts today for 24, man, and they're gonna come out next year, and you can start seeing some of them. And I think me and you have agreed that we're gonna try to get 2 episodes out a week, whether it's with rock stars or if it's just me and you, talking about, we'll start doing categories. Who's your favorite? Who is your top 5 emo bands or pop punk bands? Who is your top 5 metal band? We're just gonna get into it this year, and we're just gonna go all out, man. And the plan is, like I said, we're gonna be very relevant in the concert community. This year, we kind of started this off in the middle of the concerts last year, but this year we're gonna go balls to the wall with it, man.
Yeah, we're gonna let it rip, and I'm proud of you, man. You gave up smoking.
Yeah, man. It's a month today. I'm doing good.
Proud of you, dude.
Thanks.
You feeling good? You feeling better?
Yeah. I don't sleep very well right now. Hopefully that goes away. But besides that,
It'll go
man,
away.
yeah. No, it's good, man. I started smoking when I was 14. I'm 39 now, man. So I gave it up. So I was gonna do it on New Year's. I was like, that's my New Year's resolution. I'm gonna quit smoking. I was like, why wait? Just do it now.
Get it done,
months, man. So,
and you're 1 month into it, dude. I'm happy for you. I'm glad,
thanks, bro. Yeah, so hopefully my raspy voice goes away soon.
No, you'll keep the rasp.
Keep the rasp.
That's the DT sizzler right there.
Fuck
the raspy voice.
Man. But no, dude. Again, man, thanks so much for joining up on this, man. It's been a hell of fun so far, man. I can't wait for next year.
Yeah, dude, we're fired up and ready to go. Let's get after it.
Until the midnight hour. All the way to the midnight hour. All the way we go.